Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's Jeff Goldberg, your sales coach here for the Sales Pro Network. It is Friday. Let's see, October 22nd. It's the fall here on the East Coast. And as you know, I work with people to help them get measurable and sustainable sales increases. And I founded the Sales Pro Network as a place where salespeople like you can come and hang out, share stories, ask for help. A lot of my competitors are on the site too, and they're happy to help, give you advice, coaching. You can share your successes, your challenges, just a great place for salespeople to be. And as you obviously know, if you're here today, every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, I either bring you a fantastic guest who can add value to the profession of sales, or I do a live training. If you're watching us live today, please say hello. If you have not connected your Facebook to StreamYard, when you say hello in the comments, please say your name. Otherwise, all it says is Facebook user. If you're watching us on the replay, please put replay in the comments. And as I said, I try very hard every week to bring you either a good training or an incredible guest who can add value to the profession of sales. And today, my friends, is no exception. It's my pleasure to reintroduce you, because he's been with us once before, to my good friend, Greg Kettner. Good morning, Greg.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you? Hello, everybody, and thanks for having me at 7 a.m. in the morning. So I have my wine in the cup already. We're good to go.
No wonder it says happy. Wine in the cup at 7 a.m. And were we on the golf course at 5 this morning?
We were not. It is raining, but after this interview, the plan is to go do that.
Got it. Perfect. So I normally don't do this. I normally let our guests introduce themselves, but today I'm actually going to read Greg's bio because I think it's so cool. So give me a second here. Greg is a humorous keynote speaker and virtual business coach who champions his clients to be the best they can be by aligning their people, patterns, and progress to elevate their business and workplace culture across North America. Over his 23 years of sales and sales management experience, he's been a top producer for companies like SAP, Nike, the Vancouver Canucks, the Vancouver Whitecaps. I think he might have been from Canada originally. And BillDirect.com, producing over $12 million in products and services. 12 million. Awesome. Here's the part that I love the best. Greg is also a stand-up comedian, used to do that full-time. Now he does other things, including you're going to hear about some great stuff, the Happiness Network. He's shared stages with Robin Williams, Norm Macdonald, may you rest in peace, Jim Gaffigan, and others, making tens of thousands of people laugh all across America. As some of you know, I've started a career in stand-up comedy, and Greg has been a huge help to me. So, Greg, let's start talking about what's going on in the world and how we can be happier. So let's start with I know you become a happiness expert, and we'll talk about your recent big event, but what makes you happy?
What makes me happy is making other people happy. Getting out, making my wife laugh, making my kid laugh, people talking with people like you, networking, all that. And I also want to say thank you for the introduction. Can you email it to me so I can use it sometime?
It's on your website.
I know, my mom wrote it, so yay.
Whenever I get introduced, they always say, give me an introduction. I'm like, it's so great to get introduced by me.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I know those, and sometimes in stand-up comedy, right? When you'd walk out there, it was just you were the only act. You walk out there and say, "Hey, everybody, turn off your cell phones. You're at the bathrooms. We're going to start the show," and then you give yourself the introduction, and then you do a 360, and like, "Hey, everybody, it's Greg Kettner."
Yeah. Good morning, Ben Gibbs. Happy to see you. Ben Gibbs says, "Happy Friday, guys." Something you just said really rings true for me, Greg. You said what makes you happy is making other people happy and making other people laugh. And I actually had an experience, which I think I shared with you, which got me to do stand-up again after 28 years. I was speaking to a coach of mine, and we were talking about a completely unrelated subject. And in the middle of the conversation, she goes, "Would you like to know your life's purpose?" Well, I don't know. When somebody says they want to tell me my life's purpose, I'm certainly interested in hearing what they have to say. And of course, I said yes. And she goes, "Your life's purpose is to have a good time and help other people have a good time by making them laugh." And it was one of those moments where I actually started crying. I'm not ashamed to admit it, because she had spoken deep to the truth right inside my chest. It truly is. I love helping people with sales, and I truly love to do that too. But man, there's nothing better than making people happy by making them laugh. So for you, has that changed over the years?
I don't know if it's changed. I've finally figured it out that that's my why, I guess. My mission is to make the world a better place, one laugh at a time now. But I remember when when we were 8, 9 years old, we wore out a Bill Cosby comedy record, Fat Albert, and for the millennials, a record player is But no, so my whole life I've always had that ability, and I've always been the happy-go-lucky. But until the COVID hit, I love sales, I love people. But when I lost my job, I thought, well, why don't I combine what I do really well, which is make people laugh and teach them how to work happy. Because as well as anybody, when we're happy, we're more productive, we're more creative, we have better mental health. I read a stat a couple of weeks ago. Happy salespeople sell 37% more than unhappy salespeople.
Wow. Happy salespeople sell a third more than unhappy salespeople. Well, so
Yeah.
that brings up another question. Oh, and good morning to my friend Erica Bose-Vassell, who is an
Hey,
awesome
Erica.
sales trainer. You know Erica?
No, well,
Oh,
I do now.
you should definitely know her. She's a lot of fun.
We're going to be Facebook friends soon.
So you're kind of a happy-go-lucky guy. I've always been that way too, and we haven't spoken about everything in our lives, but I had plenty of crap in my life that could have turned me into a complete bummer. Maybe it's just wiring. I don't know. But why do you think so many people are unhappy in general, especially, and in fact, certainly at work? Even somebody who seems generally happy outside, they seem to be miserable at work most of the time. Why do you think that is?
I think it's because they're selfish.
Can you,
It's
can you
all, I
elaborate?
don't know. It's a weird answer. But I mean, now everybody's on their phones. Everybody's worried about me. How do I look on Facebook? What are people going to think of me? But when we serve, and you know this as well as I, and you taught me this in sales as well too, when you're concerned about helping someone solve their pain, that's where the magic happens. And people who are in sales just for a paycheck aren't going to be happy because you're worried about yourself. It's when you serve others and look outward and how can I help my client, with their problem or make more money or whatnot. That's where the magic happens. And that's what I found over my, 27 years of sales.
Wow. So it's really in sales and in life coming from a place of not me centered, which most of us are
Yeah.
egocentric, but more about how can I serve others? How can I help others? And I don't look, that's my come from, certainly on a comedy stage selling. I'm here to serve. I get something back for that. I get paid and I get to do my job, or on a
Yeah.
comedy stage, you and I, but we're both just talking that there's very little better in life than when you're entertaining an audience and they're enjoying it. But it's really coming from that place of other than having commission breath, other than
Yeah.
what can you do for me? Look,
Yeah.
at the end
And
of the day, we all have to get something too, but it's that come from of I'm here to serve you that allows you to get rid of all the, well, maybe not all, but a lot of the crap and just
yeah.
go and focus on the happiness. Is that what you're saying, Greg?
Yeah. Yeah. Just when you worry about other people, and obviously we need to take care of ourselves and our mortgage and our families and stuff. So there is some part of selfishness. I need this money. This is what I do. But when you focus, and I really found this out on a stage about 8 years ago. I was doing a show in a hotel lobby bar, and this is where I figured out instead of getting laughs from the audience, I wanted to give laughs.
Mm.
It's a weird thing, but so I was doing the show. I was the MC, so I was up and down in between bringing up the other comics. And 5 minutes in to the show, a dad and a son walked in. They came, sat in the front row, and they put their feet up on the stage, had a beer, they had their arms crossed. Yeah, not the kind of, obviously they hadn't seen me before because they weren't laughing. Um, and I hit a joke, and they just kind of stared up at me, and I was like, all right, guys, in my head, I was like, I got to make these guys laugh. No matter what happens tonight, I want these two guys to laugh. So I talked to him a little bit, and then halfway through the show, I was like, "Hey, bartender, if you can get another round of drinks for the guys up front here, and put it on their tab, that'd be great." And I finally got a laugh out of the dad. And hey, Steve, no worries, Steve. He's late.
Good morning, Steve Kent. It's good to see you, my
Here.
friend.
All good, Steve. So I finally got him to laugh. So at the end of the show, I went up and talked to him because that's who I am. And I said, how'd you hear about the show? And the dad said, well, we've been walking by it for the last 8 Thursdays, but we haven't stopped in. I said, 8 Thursdays? He goes, yeah, we're staying in the hotel. I said, for 8 weeks? And he goes, yeah, my wife was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I said, oh, I'm sorry. And he said, well, yeah, sir, she's in the hospital across the street. And every day my son and I go to the doctor's appointments and visit with her and do what we can. He goes, but by the end of the day, we're so tired. We have dinner and we just fall into bed. And so I just asked, I said, well, how's your mom doing? And the kid looked at me with tears in his eyes. He said, Mom passed away this morning. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. So here I am with two strangers after a comedy show, and three grown men are crying in the lobby. And finally, the dad got it together and he said, you know what, Greg, thank you so much for making us laugh tonight, because it's the first time in 8 weeks that we have felt somewhat normal. Keep making people laugh.
Wow.
And my comedy changed. My life changed because of that one incident where I'd been going up on stage for the past, the previous 6, 7 years to get laughter. That was how I wanted to feel happy. And that night I understood, by serving and making other people happy, that gave me just as much joy as an applause break or a standing ovation or whatever it is.
Wow. Well, you've served your purpose already today, Mr. Kettner, because when you said that, I wrote down give laughs, because I'm certainly guilty of, okay, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to kill. I'm going to get a bunch of laughs. They're going to love me,
Yeah.
which is, again, me centered. And I'm going to, the next time I'm up there, which may be Sunday night, I'm just going to come from that place of service instead of I got to get some laughs so I can feel fulfilled. That's
Yeah.
brilliant. And I know you had a similar story. And I don't remember the exact wording, so I'd rather you tell it, of meeting somebody at a comedy club who was kind of sitting in the back. His last name was Williams. Can you talk about that?
Robin. And I can change the story now because he's no longer with us. Um, and don't be offended; he would laugh at that.
Of course he
Um,
would.
but yeah, no, that was a couple years before, and that actually that night, Robin, when we were talking, he said, "You know what, Greg, keep doing what you're doing because you're funny, and you'll never know the difference you may make in someone's life by making them laugh." And then 3 years later, I had that incident in the hotel lobby bar. But the night I met Robin, just a great human being, and had a photographic memory. And I was doing an open mic at a place in Vancouver, BC called the Urban Well, and there's probably 7 people in the bar. Nobody had to pay to get in. There was one girlfriend, 5 comics, and a bartender, and a bunch of empty chairs. And I was halfway through my 5-minute set. The door opened up, and in walked Robin Williams. And in my head, I'm like, "Holy crap, that's my hero!" Like, and so I finished my set, and as I walked off the stage, I said, "You know what? I'm going to make this guy laugh. I'm going to pretend that I have no idea who he is." And so that's what I did. I went and got a beer and sat down beside him and started talking to him. And like, "Hey, where are you from?" He's like, "San Francisco." I'm like, "Oh, what are you doing in Vancouver? Vacation?" He's like, "No, we're filming a movie, night at the museum." I said, "That sounds like a cool job. Are you the camera guy, or do you do catering?" He kind of looked at me like, "How come this skinny John Goodman has no idea who I am?" So I asked him a couple more questions, and finally I couldn't take any longer. I said, "Dude, I totally know who you are. You're the reason why I started doing stand-up comedy." And that's, when he said, "You know what? Hey, you're funny. Keep doing what you're doing." But I couldn't believe it. Finishing my set, here's a guy that I admire, the world admires, and he was laughing at my jokes. So afterwards, the guy who ran the room said, "Hey, if you want to, close out the show, 15, 20 minutes. I'm like, "Do you have 15, 20 minutes? He went up and did 2.5 hours. It was absolutely amazing. The room was just on fire. Now, there's 200 people now in the bar because Rob was on stage. There's people lined up looking through the windows. The bouncers are charging $20 to come in. And then afterwards, he said, "You know what, Greg, thank you for making me feel normal. Nobody's ever blown me off like that, and I really appreciate it." And
Wow.
so I got a picture with him. And then the next night, we were going down to Yuck Yucks, which is a brand name across Canada, to do another 10-minute set. And I was with my buddy Ian, and I hadn't told him the story yet. And we're about 100 yards from going into this place, and Robin Williams was walking towards us. And my buddy Ian starts elbowing me in the ribs. He's like, "Dude, look, it's Robin Williams." So I looked up and I'm like, "Hey, Robin." And Rob's like, "Greg, how's it going, buddy?"
Oh,
And Ian
that's
nearly
great.
snapped his pants. But here's how cool Robin Williams was. He's like, "Where are you guys going?" I said, "Well, we're doing a set at Yikes downstairs." He goes, "Well, hey, do you think I could get on?" I'm like, "Maybe. I don't know." He said, "Well, go down and ask if I can get on, but don't tell him it's Robin Williams. Just say, hey, you got a buddy from out of town. He's pretty funny. You've heard him once or twice before." So I went in and said, "Hey, did exactly what he said." And the guy goes, "Yeah, we got a spot for him." He goes, "But if he's not funny, that's on you." I said, yeah, no, he's good. He's good.
I'll take a chance.
I'll take a chance. And so when we walked into the green room, Ian and I were rookies at the time with all these other headliners, right? That had status on us and everything. We walked into the green room and Robin Williams was like, hey everybody, I'm Robin Williams. This is my buddy Greg and my other buddy Ian. And the guys were just like, how did these guys know Robin Williams?
Wow, that's incredible.
That's how gracious he was. That he did it out of service for other people. He loved making people happy. And it's that way in comedy. It's that way in life. It's that way with my wife and my daughter. Like if I can make them happy, I'm done.
That's great. I had a picture in my mind just now as you were telling us the story about meeting Robin, pretending you don't know him, of me meeting Paul McCartney. And sitting down next to a bar and going, so what do you do for a living? I don't think I could have the presence of mind to do that because I'd be melting and gushing. Good morning, Joe Pontius, by the way. I want to get more to happiness and sales in a second, but I do have to ask this because I know you worked with him. Can you talk a little bit about the late, great Norm Macdonald and working with him?
Yeah, Norm was a great guy. He obviously had his demons. I actually have it here. I don't know, maybe I can show, but here's the set list. There we go. The set list when I worked with Norm one night. And so afterwards I asked him, for advice because he's another one of my comedian heroes. And he turned around and he took my set list, turns around and wrote on the back of it, says, hey, Greg, don't do crack. Norm Macdonald. I'm like, well, that's pretty good advice, Norm. But he was a great guy. And I got to work with him 3 or 4 times. Humble but funny and just a good guy. And it was really weird because when Robin Williams passed, I had this weird sense like I'd met him those 2 nights. Was the only time I'd ever met him, but I was like, okay, here's a guy that everybody knows, and I kind of knew like a 2-hour history in his life. But with Norm, the last time I saw him was he did a show right before the pandemic, about an hour and a half from here at a casino. And so I got a ticket. I told my wife I'd be home about 1 o'clock in the morning, and she started calling me at 1 o'clock. She's like, "Where are you?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm still in the green room with Norm Macdonald." We sat and ate pizza and had a couple beers, and he told me stories about Saturday Night Live and how he writes and all this kind of stuff for 2.5 hours. We just BS like we are here, and people say that he's had cancer, been dealing with cancer for the last 10 years. Never once mentioned it, but I think it was he was never focused on him. He was focused on his fans. He was focused on making people laugh.
Yeah, it's so amazing when you see these guys who are masters at their craft. I mean, look, I'm coming up with a bunch of people and I'm stumbling my way through. I think I sent you my video. I think I did okay for a first outing, but
great.
It wasn't Norm Macdonald or Robin Williams, but it's amazing to watch somebody who's really masterful when they're doing their job. And just the interesting thing for me is, and actually the guy who led the class that I took said that, this class is going to change the way you look at comedy because you don't just sit and laugh anymore. Now you're going, oh, I see what he did. Oh, there's a callback. Oh, brilliant. So it's really interesting. So let's get back to the important stuff. Not that this isn't important. It's fun. But do you think happiness is that we're born that way? Is it in our DNA or is that something we can actually learn? If we're not happy enough now, can we learn to be happy?
Yeah, it's actually both. And the research shows that 50% of our happiness, whether we're optimistic or pessimistic, 50% of our DNA we're born with, right, in our environment. Only 10% of our happiness comes from materialistic things. How much money do I make? What kind of car do I drive? Who did I marry? My status, my job. The other 40% is up to us. It's mindset. It's being intentional. It's, taking 5 minutes every day and laughing. It's doing kind things. It's watching whatever makes you happy. And there's different happiness is for me. And I don't think like happiness isn't like, oh, I'm going to be happy and then you're happy. I think the more we're happy and the longer we're happy, the more fulfilled we are. And then we get to that another state of like, okay, this is my new life. I'm not pessimistic all the time. I see the good. I see the positive. So yeah, it can be 40% of it can definitely be learned or acquired.
Yeah. As I think I've shared with you, I've done a lot of personal development work over the years. And one of the things I learned that feels right to me and that really guides my life is everything's a choice. and you choose to be happy, or you choose to be sad, or you choose to be whatever you are. But most of us don't take responsibility. And it's, I'll be happy when I'm the head of the department instead of Sue, or I'll be happy when I get that new car or the better house, or a lot of it seems to be with I'll be happy when, instead of saying I'm going to choose to be happy right now, no matter what the circumstances. And I could have more stuff. But I'm with you. Look, I've had money and not had money. Having money beats the heck out of not having money. But I didn't find that having money makes me any happier. It makes it easier to be happier, because if you don't have the weight of how am I going to pay the rent at the end of the month, or am I going to get kicked out? Are they going to repossess my car? It's a lot easier to be happy when you don't have that crushing weight on you. But really, to me, it's just a choice every second. And my philosophy is I choose to be happy as often as I possibly can. Obviously, when it's at funerals, I'm typically not happy, but I choose to be happy, because my thing is I don't want to get to noon. And today's not a good example because I'm driving down to Virginia to see my daughter, but normally I'll go out and get a sandwich or something for lunch. And I don't want to get hit by a car. And as I'm fading in my final seconds, I don't want to be thinking, crap, I wasted my last morning on earth being pissed off or upset when I could have chosen to be happy. I was doing, go ahead, please.
Oh, yeah, no, I think it's about mindset. And Keith, thanks for jumping on your question. What steps do I take for mindset? There's a lot of them, but for me now, during COVID, and I've always been a happy-go-lucky guy. I've never, suffered with anxiety or depression, but I know a lot of people that have. So for me, it's mindset. So I wake up in the morning, I exercise for 30 minutes. I read for 20 minutes, and then I meditate for 10. So that's my first hour. I don't turn my phone on. I don't look at the news. But for me, that's the mindset. And another thing I started doing, I share this with everybody, is sending gratitude texts. And I did this probably about 6 months ago. When I was in college, I took a year out and I went and taught English as a second language on a remote island where there's no newspapers, no TV, no radio. And my brother sent me a bunch of John Grisham and Tom Clancy books, because I was never much of a reader. And he was like, you know what? Read these books. Tell me what you think. Because he was my older brother, I wanted to, do what he said. And so I got through the first book and a half, and I was like, man, I really like reading. And ever since then, I mean, I read a book or two a month. I love it, whether it's, self-help stuff, or I'm, what am I reading right now? The Power of Playing Offense by a buddy of mine, Paul Epstein. And so I pulled out my phone one morning, and he usually takes about a day or two to get back to me. But I sent him a text. I said, hey, Todd, hope you're having a great day. And just wanted to let you know how much I appreciate those books that you sent me 20 years ago, because of that, and because you were a bookworm, I'm now a bookworm too. I absolutely love it. And I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. I had a text in the next 5 minutes. He goes, I totally forgot about that. I had no idea. He goes, but thanks for pointing me out. That totally made my day. Wow. And then I got a text from later in the day. He goes, you know what? I texted my wife, because 2 nights ago she came home, made my favorite meal, and I just texted her. And so sending a gratitude text, right? Writing down what you're thankful for is one way to make yourself happy. But when you send that to somebody and you be specific and you be genuine, it's going to make their day, and it's going to make you feel even better than just writing in a journal. I'm thankful for reading. I'm thankful for books.
That's great. Keith has a follow-up. Ever been married?
I am married now, Keith.
He's married and he's happy. And good morning from Indiana. I don't know who that is from Indiana, but good morning, unless your name is Indiana. In doing some, let's see, the Facebook user says, love that. Yes, the ripple effect is powerful. Yeah. I'm a reader also. I'm always reading a fiction book and some kind of business book or something, self-help or something like that. I'm reading a Stephen King book right now. By the way, I love Tom Clancy and John Grisham. And I'm also reading books on comedy, being a better writer and stuff like that. Holly. It's Holly. Good morning, Holly.
Oh, hey, Holly. How are you?
Yes, I know Holly was our guest a week or two ago. She's terrific. Another person you should meet with a great positive attitude. In doing some research for this, I was reading, this was from some guy's TEDx talk, that there are 3 things once one's basic needs are satisfied that academic literature points to as the ingredients for happiness. And I want to get your opinions on these. 1, having meaningful social relationships. 2 is being good at whatever it is one spends one day's doing. And the three is having the freedom to make life's decisions independently. Your thoughts?
He's bang on. And I think, COVID it's been tough having these relationships. I mean, but you and I met on a conference call, on a Zoom meeting, right?
Yeah.
So now we've made friends all around the world, and because of COVID, I can now say I'm an international speaker because I've been on Zoom to New Zealand and Turkey. So, but I think the social interaction is something we're really losing, and I see that, with my daughter's age group. She's 17 on the 4th, but they're all on their phones and they don't talk. I mean, kids now are dating or say that they're dating because they Snapchat back and forth. But right, our phones are probably more addictive than heroin. Um, but I think the social interaction is key, and being as much as we can safe, physical, you know, interaction as well too. But whatever we can do to have that interaction and to be real. And I'm trying to be as real as I can on my social media because there's all these Facebook and Instagram influencers and stuff. They're stepping out of jets and they're flying all over the world. But you have an honest conversation and they're like, you know what, I've been struggling. This is what you see. But in life, it's all struggle. So we need to have those social interactions, and having conversations with people is what makes me happy. And I know it
Yeah.
does for a lot of people too.
And a lot of that Instagram stuff is dangerous because these influencers, they're not always doing everything they say. That I mean,
Yeah.
they're brilliant at making it look like they are, and it's causing some real problems for people who aren't flying on jets, private jets, and having lunch in the Bahamas or something like that. Um, Keith Ginsburg is asking, I may be a bit ignorant, but what is the ripple effect? Well, that was actually Holly talking about the ripple effect. But if I could speak for Holly, who's not here, it's one thing affects another. When Greg sends his brother a little note just saying, I'm so happy that you did that, it affects his brother. That comes back to Greg. It could affect everybody that Greg's talking to that day and everybody that his brother's talking to that day. Is that the way you see it, Greg?
Yeah, absolutely. Versus just writing it in my journal, which makes me happy. I'm like, oh, I'm really thankful that I have the ability to read books, right? Because 14% of the adult world can't read, and you would never think that it's that high, but that's true in North America. So the fact that I'm able to read and gain knowledge, and I read somewhere a while ago, and I don't know if it's true. I didn't do enough research, but they said if you read enough books and talk to enough people, that's like an MBA or a PhD, right?
Keith says, sorry, I need pictures, maybe dominoes. See, he's making us happy by making us laugh. You said something else, which I think is incredibly useful, that you wake up and you have this morning routine, and it does not include listening to the news. I happen to be a news junkie, and because I'm terrified of what's going on in the world and certainly our country, and I need to stay informed. But I've dramatically cut down the amount of news I'm listening to because it's almost all bad. And I don't care if you're Tony Robbins himself, who I consider to be the greatest motivational speaker that ever walked the face of the planet. You can't take that bombardment of bad all the day and be expected to still be happy. So you've got to watch what you're putting into your brain, as well as doing things like being grateful. Gratitude's a very high space to come from, and it makes it a lot easier to be happy when you are grateful for what you do have. Part of my morning affirmations are, I'm so happy and grateful for my 3 wonderful children. I'm so happy and grateful for my fantastic ex-wife. And that may sound like a weird thing to say from an ex-husband, but I am, because she gave me my 3 kids and is a wonderful mother. So if you can take a look at the things that you do have to be grateful for, and look, I've never been homeless, thank goodness. And, I'm not broke. So I can't speak to what it's like when you're in that situation, but for the majority of us, certainly of those of us who are watching right now on Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube, we're a little bit better off than that. And coming from a place of gratitude really puts you in a good position. How does putting people before profits make sense to any business? Because most businesses, they're greedy and they're just after squeezing every penny. So how do you put people before profits, and how can that make sense to a business?
Well, one reason, when you do put people before profits and you invest in your people and you listen to them, you value their opinions and whatnot, reduces turnover significantly. If somebody's in the workforce and they feel like they have a question, and they can walk into the boss's office and say, what about this idea? Or this is what I'm feeling. How can you help me? when people are hurt, turnover, it's almost 250% to replace that person. So if their salary is at $100,000, they leave. By the time you get rid of them, you put the job posting out, you do all the interviewing, you do all the training, the ramp up, and then you hope that they're the right fit for your culture. It's $250,000 to get back to square one.
Mm.
So if you take a little bit of time and you put that person first, they come in and say, you know what, I'm really struggling, I'm stressed, I'm dealing with some anxiety because of what's going on in my family. And you as a boss say, you know what, I understand if you need help, if you need professional help, I can help you find a counselor or a doctor. But why don't you go home, take the afternoon off, take not as much time as you need, but take the afternoon off. If you need tomorrow, call me and let me know what's going on. I want to be of help, instead of the person going, well, I guess I need take another sick day and just lie to my boss, kind of thing. So when you put people first, it saves money, but it also, 68% of people right now that are on this are watching. 68% of us are actively looking for another job because they're not happy at their job, right? And so that's a lot of movement. I read a stat yesterday, in the service industry, turnover is 54% every year. 54. I mean, you're just churning and burning, right? But there are restaurants in their hospitality. There's a place, a restaurant here in town. The guys have been open for 10 years. 8 of their 14 employees have been with them for 10 years.
Wow.
But they take care of the medical. They have a weekly therapy session. They have a therapist on staff. Well, not on staff, but that their staff can call if they're dealing with stress or anxiety or drugs or alcohol, right? They invest into their people, and they've had 10 people with them for 10 years, which is unheard of, in any industry these days, especially let alone hospitality.
So putting people before profits actually makes you more profitable.
Absolutely. It's a weird way to think about it. But if you take care of, and the guy who does this best is Richard Branson, right? He said, if you take care of your people will take care of your customers will take care of your profit.
Yeah, that's great. I'm betting you already know the name of the guy, the guy that I'm about to mention, but Simon Sinek is brilliant. He talks a lot about this type of thing. That U.S. corporations. I don't know if he meant the whole world, but certainly U.S. corporations are based on the military structure, which is chain of command and very rigid. And in the talk I saw him giving, he said even in the military structure, it's a misnomer that really caring about each of the people under you makes them feel better, and putting people before profits actually works well. And even generals, the ones who actually know the names of the people that work under them and acknowledge them and take great care of them, they get people who are loyal beyond belief and stick around. And I don't remember the exact number, but I know I heard it recently, and it was staggering that Amazon's turnover is, forget 100%. It was more like 1,000% a year or 900% a year, some incredible number. And they I don't know, they employ tons and tons of people. Can you imagine having to replace, I'm making up a number, but 20,000, I'm sure they have more, 100,000 people 9 times a year? How do you do that?
Yeah.
Crazy. So what are 3 things we can do to work happy?
Oh boy, now you're asking an expert. Can I call a friend?
Yeah, you have a lifeline.
Yeah, no, 3 things to work happy. I think, well, the first is your mindset in the morning, right? And I have to do this. There's days where during COVID where I've just felt overwhelmed, or maybe I was talking to a client and a deal went sideways. I was going to speak, but now they're pushing it to next year. So it's the mindset in the morning starting out, and I can tell at the end of the day whether I meditated or not. Is hokey and hippie as that sounds, I was like, meditation, whatever. But I've gotten into it, and now I can sit down, be in my own head for 15 minutes every morning, and it levels out my day, whether yesterday was a bad day or today, whatever. But that really helps. And then I think number 2 is just being intentional about serving other people. Every time I get on a phone or a Zoom call, excuse me, my goal is to help that client, with whatever their problem is. And right now it's people who are lonely, people who are working from home, So how can I serve? And then, just another thing is, as weird as it sounds as well too, if you're not happy doing what you're doing, find something that you're passionate about. And this goes back to Simon Sinek, right? Find your why. I'm lucky that my why, and I dovetailed it into helping other people work happy. How to talk about mental health at work. We're all a little bit crazy, but it's still at that level, where we can't talk about it. But if you have conversations like you and I have, shared stuff that has gone on in our lives, and I'll check in with you. I'm like, Jeff, how's the real estate between your ears? Because that's the most important real estate that we'll ever have, right? And if we're just kind and compassionate and reach out to our friends, reach out to our employees, how are things at home? How are the kids doing? Stuff like that. When we're serving people, it's so much better. And again, it goes back to, people before profits.
Yeah. Something you said a moment ago really rings true for me, that, people leave because they're unhappy. It could be for a variety of reasons, but I'm betting that you've had the same experience as I have as a professional speaker, because when you're a professional speaker, if you're not coming off with confidence about your subject, then the audience is wasting their time. You're wasting their time, and they are too. So we have to come off as confident about our subject. And often that confidence means some people come up afterwards and they want to shake your hand and thank you, and they ask questions. I know it happens to me all the time. And often it's questions that have nothing to do with sales or sales management, my two areas of expertise.
Yeah.
And the one I get most often is, I don't know what to do with my life. What should I do? Well, in my head, I'm going, are you kidding me? I'm 66 years old and I'm still trying to figure that out too, but I'll share my advice anyways. My advice is always the same. Ask yourself, what would you do if the money didn't matter? And then figure out how to make money doing that.
Yeah.
Figure a way to make money doing that.
Yeah.
So, whatever it is that you would do if you didn't have to get paid, now go find a way to make money doing that. That's the key to happiness. And we've all heard the phrase, do what you love and you won't work a day in your life.
Yeah.
That's the key. I actually, again, in doing research, a TED talk by Steven Pinker almost depressed me this morning, because he suggests that two groups in particular are really struggling with being happy. The first group, Americans, as opposed to other first world nations. And the other one, baby boomers. I'm both. I'm reading this, I'm going, I'm doomed. And then I said, no, I'm not, because I choose to be happy anyways, you nasty bastard Pinker. Yeah. Somebody says, hi, Jeff. Great to see you, my friend. Great to see you too. Who are you?
Facebook friend.
It just says Facebook user. I don't know your name. So please put your name in so I can say hi to you. Let's switch. I know you can't stick around the whole hour. And before we end today, I wanted to get to sales a little bit, because you do. I know you're a happiness guy, and you help companies be happy. But you have extensive experience in both sales and sales management. So one of the questions I get most often is what I'm going to ask you. Oh, Mark Antonacci, holy Moses.
Hey, Mark.
Mark Antonacci is somebody I know for years and years. Here's a happy guy, by the way. Greg, you'd love Mark Antonacci. Incredible experience in both sales and sales management. We disagree on some things, but we love each other enough that we can look past those. And
Mark doesn't like the Beatles?
Not quite that, but we both love and respect each other enough that we can still be friends and talk, even though we have some different opinions. But he is a real happy guy. Sorry?
I think during COVID, the divisiveness, whether you're to the left or to the right, let's have a conversation, and let's not let our political thinking get in our heads to where you're wrong, I'm right. Tell me why you think that. Help me understand, right? And like you were just saying with you and Mark, you don't have to agree on everything, but yet you're still good friends. And there's more good than there is like, well, okay, he doesn't agree with me on this. That's cool. Whatever. I still like you, Mark. Right? Everything else, and if we have conversations and listen, it's going to be better for everybody.
Yeah, I'm more than like Mark. I love this guy. He's great. I actually met him when I was training a company he was working at. He's brought me in more than once to company where he's become VP of sales, and just a terrific guy. But something you just said, I think, is perfect. I think we need to book you in front of a joint session of Congress to say that exact thing. Yeah, we think differently. That's okay. But how do we find a way to work together despite our differences? But the question that I'm getting really all the time, and I understand why, is how do I find more prospects? So any advice currently for what's working in terms of prospecting, finding new prospects?
Well, my business has really taken an uptick because I've on LinkedIn. I'm reaching out to people and having genuine conversations instead of, and again, it always goes back to serving others. We all get these, LinkedIn users like, hey, I was on your website and I see that, how can I help you with your phone bills? I'm like, that person, maybe it was a bot, but they know nothing about me. So when I'm on LinkedIn, I treat it just like talking to a buddy or a friend. Like, hey, I work in the sports world right now. So now a lot of the hockey teams. So going through the feed, people are showing pictures of opening night, and you go in there like, hey, it looked great. You had fireworks and blah blah blah, this and that, and just start regular conversations with people. To me, sales is all about relationshiping. When I started sales 27 years ago, it was always be closing, right? you know, press hard, the third copy is yours. All those kinds of tricks but I can't, it's like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, right? I can try and sell you on what I do, Jeff, but if you don't have a need, what am I doing? But if I asked you, hey, you're a sales coach, how's everything going? You're like, well, I'm really struggling in this one area or whatnot. I can either say, well, I can help you with that. I have experience with that. Or if I'm not the right person, I can point you into directions with other people that I know or resources to help you out. Because anybody can, push something on somebody, but if you build a relationship, if you listen more than you speak, that's how you go forward in sales, in my opinion.
Yep. And I also am a big believer in exactly what you said, giving, having real relationships, and using social media. Look, my business has exploded since I started doing videos like these. Now, I don't do these to make money. I don't charge anybody to be in this group. I have never asked for a penny. I've never tried to sell anything to any of the members of the group. But I'm constantly posting things like this. I know you follow me and I follow you on LinkedIn. Yeah. I'm giving advice that helps people. And I find that when you give, people do reach out. And I can't tell you how often I hear now, hey, I saw your video on LinkedIn and I want to talk to you about doing some training for my team, or whatever it is. It's giving brings back. And I can't resist. I don't want to focus on my friend Mark, but he did something one time, which I have used a million times. And by the way, Mark, I give you credit every single time I say it. So I can't resist telling you the story. I was working at a company where he was the VP of sales. I think we were in North Carolina or something like that, somewhere down south. Nice company, great organization. And my advice to a VP of sales when they bring me in to do training is, look, you should sit in the back of the room and be as inobtrusive as possible, because if you're up front, your people are going to be focused on you. I kind of want them to forget you're there so that they're focused on me and the information I'm giving them. Obviously interrupt if there's anything that I say that doesn't apply to your team, but try to stay quiet. Now, most VPs of sales have healthy egos. Mark's no slouch. By the way, I'm no slouch. And at one point in the day, I remember Mark getting up, walking to the front of the room, and taking a pen off the flip chart. And he wrote these letters, and I'll never forget it. And again, I've used this a million times. And I promise you, Mark, every single time I give you credit. He wrote SW, SW, SWN. And I don't even know if he remembers this. SW, SW, SWN. And he pointed to it and he goes, do you know what that means? And I looked, I said, you got me. Does anybody know what that means? Got me. He said, it means some will, some won't. So what? Next. I love that.
Yeah.
And that's the attitude you have to have in sales. You've got to be consistently prospecting enough, because some will, but some won't. You could be the greatest salesperson in the world. And I know you're great at what you do. And I'm no slouch at sales either. I can't close everybody. I don't want to close everybody. I only want to work with people who are right for me and that I'm right for too. Yeah. I close less than 50% of the people I first meet with, and I'm an expert at selling. So some are not going to do it. So you've got to be consistently, well, first of all, you've got to have the attitude that it's okay if people don't buy from me. It's okay. Yep. Some are gonna and some aren't. I can't please everyone.
Yeah. And I think if we do our job as salespeople and ask the right questions and come from a place of service and give the help that we can, people will close themselves, because they'll come to the point, okay, well, you're an expert in what you do. This is a problem that I have. How do I work with you?
Yeah, that's right in line with my sales philosophy, which is exactly. I don't close anybody. Well, I do ask closing.
I've heard it from you, and I've heard it from a ton of other guys too. But when we're in service, we ask the right questions if we can help. And you're right, we're not going to close everybody. Some will, some won't. So what next? That's great. So thank you, Mark. I need to get up to 1 million users now on saying that.
I think this is Mark again saying no doesn't mean no. It just means no for right now. And
Yeah.
that's absolutely it. I always have struggled with sales trainers like me who tell people, don't take it personally. Well, guess what? They're saying no to you. And
Yeah.
it's okay to take it personally, but it's not okay to let it ruin you. Take
Yeah.
it personally for 5 minutes, get up, walk around, meditate if you have to, and then get back in the game, because the name of the game is, how do I reach enough people that may be interested in doing business with me? And how do I serve them in a way that they go, I need some of Jeff. I need some of Greg. How do I get some of that? And I truly believe that you keep saying things that are just right in line with what I think. When your come from is service and you speak with enough people and you ask the right questions, that they'll give you the answers. They will actually close themselves. They'll tell you exactly what, if you ask the right questions and actively listen, people will tell you everything you need to know in order to help them choose to do business with you, because I'm with you. While I do believe in asking closing questions, because I think the goal of,
yeah, absolutely. But I'm just saying, if we get to the problem and then they're talking, well, what do we do now? How do I work with you? Then it's the closing questions. Well, is this in the next 6 months or is it next year? Why me? Why now? They're like, well, no, we need to do this in the next 2 months. Okay. What's your budget? Right. So all those closing questions do play into it, but it's back to service.
Yeah. The goal of any sales process has to be to get to the end and have the other person go, oh, well, I want some of you, except most people don't. Most people still need to be invited with some kind of a closing question, whatever. I teach a particular type of close, but you got to ask people, because people have people's mentality is the way brain science works is we think of the negative first when we're looking to buy something. What if I make a mistake? And people don't want to make bad decisions. So we have to help them see that we're going to take great care of them. We have what they need, and then invite them to buy. I know you've got to go. So let me see if I can share my screen this way, because this is different than I normally do it. I think no, that's not going to work. Let's try this. Greg, I'm actually not able to get your contact information up there because it's a Google slide instead of a PowerPoint. But if people want to reach you, to talk to you, work with you, possibly engage with you in some way, how do they reach? What do you offer, and how do they reach you?
Probably the best way is just on LinkedIn, or they can email me it's just my name, Greg at gregkettner.com. But I work with professional organizations on how to generate more revenue, how to have less turnover, and have that conversation with your staff within your organization on talking about mental wellness and the things that we can do, putting people first. And if anybody is struggling with their own job or their company, I'd be happy to jump on a Zoom call or whatnot. My cell number also is 509-730-3888. I would love to have a conversation, meet you. If there's anything that I can do to help you, like Jeff said, I'm all about service and making the world better, one laugh at a time.
Yeah. And I know this is not your main gig anymore, but don't you still do some comedy? Do you do it for corporations?
Yeah, no, I do. My sense of humor is a little bit dark, but I do corporate comedy. I've done it with Coca-Cola and SAP and Ford, and now everybody's on Zoom, right? So they're reaching out to me and say, hey, do you want to do a happy hour, right? Where people, it's 5 o'clock and everybody's at their house and they grab a glass of wine or a beer or a cocktail, and we just tell stories and whatnot. So I also do that as well too, which is fun, because then I get to meet a whole bunch of people and make them laugh, and that charges me up.
That's great. I know we only have 90 seconds to get you out of here, but would you just share what you did recently? It starts with a T and ends with an X.
TEDx. Yeah. I was fortunate enough to be chosen to do a talk for TEDx Spokane. So I'll share that with you, Jeff, that you can share with your followers when it comes out. But the basic of the talk was the power of laughter, because when we laugh, we connect with people. And when we connect, our hearts are open to one another. And when our hearts are open to one another, our world is a better place. So I just really wanted to let people know that laughter is good. It's needed. And laughter is the best medicine unless you have diarrhea.
Well, Greg, I'm blessed to have you in my life as a friend. And I have to thank our mutual friend, Jake Ballantyne, for having the organization that allowed me to meet you. And you're just wonderful. You're delicious. You're fun, and you are who you say you are. You know, so many times you meet people and they're saying one thing, but they're really coming out of their rear end. Greg is really exactly what he says he is. He comes from service, and I really appreciate having you in my life. And for those of you who don't have Greg Kettner in your life, other than speak with him like this, and as members of the Sales Pro Network, I will end as I always do. Please remember, sales is a game of making things happen. So get out there and make sales happen. Speak to you soon, my friend. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. Take care.